Welcome to Optiherence. My name is Dr. Debbie Crews and I'm a faculty member at Arizona State University. I've been in academics about 32 years now between Arizona State University and University of North Carolina, Greensboro. My Ph.D. is in sports psychology, exercise science. My specialization is probably more studying attention and doing it through psychophysiological techniques. So I typically have been looking at the brain and heart as indicators of attention for about the past 25 plus years. Over the years, we've studied a lot of different athletes. I mostly work with golf. We've hypothesized different patterns. The interesting thing is when we look at the data from all these studies, individual and group data, we find a similar pattern related to successful performance, and it also separates out the experts or the pros from the novice or the beginners. So that pattern seems to be coherence, and it is a state of synchrony, harmony, balance in the brain. But actually in watching players for all these years in my lab putting thousands of putts, the coherence or that balance that we see is more than just in the brain. It starts in the brain, but it's actually also in the motion of the person, in the balance of the person, in what comes out in terms of the club, the ball, and the target. So watching this for all these times, over all this time, with different levels of performers, I believe that we could measure what it is that actually is the basis of their best performance. And that measure is probably a lot of the connection that is achieved or coherence in all of these measures. So in the past 5 years, I've been working with Dr. Kanav, Kahol, and Bob Attarian. We built 6 different systems actually to measure everything we could about expert putting performance and novice. The very good part of this is we're using a technique that isn't used, I don't think, out there anywhere else. We just patented that approach. So what we are finding when we train people based on what they're showing us when they perform the best is that we actually can go in with our technique and train a connection that exists between all of these measures. In doing that, we don't touch mechanics, we don't tell them how to do it, but the performance results are pretty amazing where they can get there much faster than they would probably going through a traditional approach to learning the game. So we're very excited about this, and that is what Optiherence is about. It's optimal performance or optimal coherence related to best performance. That's where the name came from. Where we would like to go is to develop one complete system that does analysis of everything, and then from that we can predict and define which training techniques each individual would use. For that approach, somebody would come into a golf facility and be measured by somebody who's certified and trained in this approach. But the other aspect is we're developing 7 individual units that we will actually be able to take out on the golf course, and the golfer will be able to train themselves. And that's the really exciting part in terms of helping players from the mental side. There's so few techniques and pieces of equipment and things that players can do from the mental side, but there's a lot from the physical side. So when we get these products all put together, I think we'll be able to really excel not only golf performance, but sport performance, rehabilitation, and many other areas of performance. We will also be developing 7 individual units, which will encompass all 8 measures that we're interested in. And these have been proven so far through this research we've done to be predictors of that great performance. This applies to every level of performer, not just the tour player, not just the intermediate player. It applies to the beginner as well. I'm very excited about the team that I have because as we've been working together the last 4 to 5 years, we've been able to accomplish a great deal thus far, and we're very excited about building the feedback side of it. The feedback side of it will be in phases. So the first feedback side will include development of the EEG system, a balance system, a club system, and the integration of those 3. The next phase will be the development of the rest of the measures. And from this, there's no telling where we may be able to take this in terms of improving performance in so many different arenas. So at this point in time, I would love you to meet my team.
Hello, my name is Dr. Kanav Kahol. I'm a Ph.D. in computer science, and I'm a professor in the School of Biological and Health Systems Engineering at Arizona State University. I'm also an assistant professor at Mayo Clinic, a research faculty at Banner Health, and a research faculty at the Center for Sustainable Health in Biodesign Institute at Arizona State University. In my background, I've been working a lot on training, and specifically training for cognitive and psychomotor tasks. So I started actually working with dancers, where we were trying to train dancers on how to follow senior dancers, and we really started to look at motion patterns about that. From that, I actually jumped on to training surgeons, and we tried to develop protocols to actually train surgeons, and also by observing the motion of surgeons and the activity of surgeons, predicting a novice from an expert. Turns out that this was actually something we really enjoyed. It was a lot of fun. We've actually won a lot of best paper awards in this field, and we've really been working with the American College of Surgeons in standardizing certain protocols. However, I always noticed that there was something missing, and I think the part that was always sort of missing was the cognitive training part, and that's one of the first things that actually brought me close to Debbie Crews. I actually met Debbie working on a project in Mayo Clinic where we were trying to look at this, what I at that stage considered to be a wacky disease called yips. We were trying to actually look at motion patterns of yips, and I had basically worked on a lot of software analysis for analyzing hand motion, and folks, including Debbie in the project, actually thought that it would be good to measure hand motion of golfers and really see if we can distinguish between yips and non-yips condition. So we started using my data gloves, and that's how I actually met Debbie. But I think what really got me and Debbie going together was the fact that both of us believed a lot in cognitive training, and I at that stage did not know much about Debbie's method. Since then, Debbie's actually ended up training me with her brain training approaches in golf. I cannot golf if you put a gun to my head, but with Debbie's method I was really able to learn something, and I can tell you amongst my students I'm considered to be a little bit of a legend when it comes to golfing. I think what's been fascinating for me is to sort of work on these approaches. I've worked in so many domains that I've always sort of found that there's a generic principle that links training, and it has to involve cognitive as well as psychomotor training and integrating them. And Debbie's project, we've worked on balance analysis, we've worked on golf swing analysis, and we've also now started to work on EEG analysis, and we're starting to see these amazingly consistent patterns on things that distinguish an expert from a novice, things that actually distinguish a learned state from a learning state, and really being able to use that for training. My own particular background in computer science and being able to develop persuasive computing solutions such as gaming has actually been very, very useful for me, and we've started to see a lot of confluence of different disciplines in this approach. That confluence also lends itself to more applications. So golf, I think, is just the beginning. You can look at sports training, rehabilitation. I cannot wait to actually take this system and put it on surgeons, so we can actually do some surgical training, which would lead to lesser medical errors and cost benefits. So I think that the horizon is very wide in terms of what we actually want to achieve with these technologies. My job is going to be to work with the data that's being generated by Bob's hardware and actually analyze that data to predict if you are in the zone of optimal performance. Now that's something that actually involves a lot of modalities coming together, and all those modalities, by that I mean golf swing analysis, your balance analysis, the EEG, all need to be analyzed together. So we're really talking about a new method of looking at things. Generally, scientifically, you try and isolate each and every one of the features. Debbie and I have always believed in the fact that we need to treat all these entire feature sets together, and which is where I think we're really starting to see the magic happen. Our initial results are very, very exciting, and I think being able to link them with persuasive feedback, training through games and other types of modalities, I think we really have an opportunity to go beyond what is the standard, what is actually considered to be the de facto standard of training. So this is absolutely exciting, something that I cannot wait to get my hands wet in, and I look forward to being a part of the team.
Hi, my name is Bob Attarian, and after leaving college, I worked in the aerospace industry as an electronic engineer for a period of about 12 years, working at such companies as Lockheed Missiles and Space Division, Eastman Kodak, Goodyear Aerospace, Sunstrand Aviation, just to name a few. Projects I worked on involved satellite systems telemetry, mostly in Earth measurement, Earth environmental equipment and data. After that, I went into business for myself, started a company here in Arizona that I operated for 15 years, built the company up and eventually sold it, making equipment for the industrial process industry. The equipment involved motor drives, motor controls, measurement of process variables, and so forth. Customers we had included IBM. We did a lot of work for General Motors in their AC Delco plant. We did work for, again, Goodyear Aerospace and several other companies. The equipment we developed was state-of-the-art equipment using microprocessors. It was some of the earliest applications of microprocessors in industrial controls. Later on, we got developed work in using digital signal processing for things like signal analysis, for vision systems. We did several robotics test systems for IBM. After I sold the company, I went on and started my current company, Motech Inc. And we basically do product development consulting for various other companies. The largest project I've worked on was a project for the National Rural Telecommunications Cooperative in their management of about 1,000 rural electric companies that supply and distribute electricity, and we made meters that would actually hook up to a telephone and call in the meter readings and so forth, so that they didn't have to hire people that would go out in the field and read these meters. That was an expensive process when you're in places like southern New Mexico and West Texas. I've been working with Debbie Crews now for approximately 5 years on various aspects of her research in golf and sports kinematics. Some of the things I've done for her involve measuring the dynamics of the putter, the club, in the swing process as part of a data gathering system which involves brainwave measurements and so forth that she then takes and with Dr. Kanav does a lot of mathematical processing of the data to aid in golfer training. We've also developed for her a balance system for measuring the balance performance of the subject, and some work in ball dynamics, how the ball reacts to the putter's swing and as it rolls across the green. This particular company that she's putting together has several products that I think can aid the golfer and help him in his quest to lower his score.
So now that you've met the team and you're aware of what we're doing with this great company, I'd like to just capitalize on a couple of points. I mean, our goal in all of this is to provide the golfer and beyond a way of improving their own performance. It'll stem from the mental side, from the capacity of the brain, which is tremendous, and it'll extend and be coherent with everything else that they're doing, whether it's golf putting, hitting, chipping, pitching, or beyond. The units that we'll be developing, the pieces of equipment that we are selling, will be user-friendly, they'll be very affordable, they're using state-of-the-art technology, both from a hardware perspective as well as from an analysis and software perspective. To my knowledge, there are no other training devices out there that even come close to the type of feedback that we will be providing. And I think from that, we are going to be able to help people with any type of performance. Optiherence will provide state-of-the-art technology and software feedback programming that will allow the user to perform better than they've ever performed before. And it'll be based on what they've learned to do from inside themselves. And that's what the whole gist of the company is about, is helping people perform better from the inside out.